before we move forward, we're going to look back for just 1 second. Last week, we had in the strategy guide, Vallejos round 1 plus 300, shouted out as a potential angle, and he goes out there and delivers. Kevin Christian via sub in round 1 or 2, and he goes out there and absolutely ships it. Christian via sub plus 320, shouted out. Christian round 2 plus 550, shouted out. If you were a real philosopher, you went out there and you hit the sub 2 as well at whatever price that was, probably plus 1900 or something crazy. Then we talked about Frunze being a live underdog here, especially the KO at plus 350. And in the main event, I was dead wrong. I thought Schoenfelder was going to get it done, and unfortunately, he did not get to extend that one. But we celebrate the wins. We own the losses. Last week was a good week of reads. Let's see if we could do it again. I'm going to start off with the first fight of the night. We've got the wrestler, the All-American, Jacobe Smith, taking on the Canadian Christian. Here we go. Chevalier. And I think that this is going to be Jacobe Smith probably mauling our friend Chevalier, unfortunately. I think that Chevalier has a chance to win because Jacobe Smith is sometimes a little wild with his brawling. He's a little bit reckless. He's a little bit, willing to swing in the pocket. But I think he's got the athletic upside. I think he's the guy who has better takedowns. I think he's the guy who has a better ground game, better control on the mat. I think he could do more damage from the top position. And I think that as long as he fights a smart game plan, like I expect him to, Kyle Crutchmer in the corner, a lot of guys from the Oklahoma State, lineage have done very well at the UFC level. Think Daniel Cormier, think Johnny Hendricks. This is a fighting culture, right? That they come out of this school and they're ready to fight more often than not. So yeah, Nick Piccinini came in with a few less fights, maybe had a tough time on Contender Series. For my money, I think Jacobe Smith is just as serious a prospect. Nick Piccinini is in a tougher weight class, right? By and large, just globally more competitive in my view. And I think that when you're looking at the welterweight class, Jacobe Smith has a lot of upside. When he gets these guys to the ground, they're going to have a hard time getting their wits back about him because he throws a lot of heavy ground and pound quickly. And that's why a lot of these guys aren't making it to round 2. So for me, I think it's a fun fight, good scrap. And Local Man asks, how is the under still plus 140? I think that's an interesting question, right? Maybe that does mean that the odds makers think it could get a little bit more extended here. But I also think Chevalier could get, just beat up over the course of, 10 minutes here. He's a tough guy. He's a willing guy. He looks like he showed up in great shape. But if you can't stop the takedown, you can't stop the takedown. And that's ultimately what I see in this matchup. In the next matchup, I'm going to differ with my co-host just a little bit in saying, not that I think Torrez Finney's a lock and you should put him in every parlay or anything like that. But I think that he has a chance to go out here and knock this guy out in the first round. I think the UFC gave him a matchup where this guy's willing to swing. This guy's willing to take some big chances. He's a risk taking fighter in his own right. He's fought a pretty low level of competition. I think to Torrez Finney's credit, he's fought a little bit tougher guys. He's fought a diversity of styles, and he does have some physical limitations, right? He is 5'8". He's not a big guy, but I think that he's got power in his hands. I think that's natural. I think if he gets this guy to the ground, he can deliver hellacious ground and pound to him. So for me, I just feel like there is upside for Torrez Finney to come out here and just smash this guy early, quickly. But I also think there's risk, in taking that approach, that he could get finished on the back end. I don't know that his cardio is worthy of prime time. However, if you have, Dana White on your ass about your cardio is not ready for UFC level, if you're not doing wind sprints every day, if you're not like on the road doing your work, then I don't really know if this is the career for you, right? Because he got the ass chewing that you're supposed to get before the best performance of your career. So for me, I think that's what I'm expecting from Torrez Finney, but I also think that you're being asked to pay the price for that. And the price has come down substantially, right? So the market is less bullish on him now than they were for his last couple matchups. And I can understand why. He struggled a little bit, but I still think that there was a reason people were hyped on him before. And I think that it's because at his best, he's got athletic upside. He's got the power to knock you out, and he can take you down, throw you around, dominate you physically. And when you're that low to the ground, can somebody get underneath him? Are they going to take him down? It's going to be very difficult to get that going. So unless he makes mistakes, unless he falls over the top, those kind of things, he should have a lot of advantages against guys because of a low center of gravity in the wrestling and the grappling. With that being said, we'll move to the next fight where I think Xavier Franklin is a live underdog as well. I think David Martinez has dangerous low kicks. I think he's got pretty crafty striking. I'm questioning his grappling. I'm questioning what happens if he gets put in some dangerous situations with Xavier pressing forward, using his extreme pressure, right? He comes forward, he uses lateral footwork, he cuts off the angles, and he's going to try and force this guy into a heavy boxing match. He's got a lot of knockouts on his record, but also when he hurts guys, when guys start making bad decisions or trying to wrestle reactively because they're getting pressured, he's very good at wrestling back into them, taking them down, beating them up. And I saw a very nice rear naked choke on his resume. It's against a lower level opponent, but I saw the right fundamentals. I think he's got finishing instincts. I think he can win this fight inside the distance. I think we've seen Martinez tested by the best guys he fought regionally. And I think a lot of the guys he fought regionally didn't have enough to offer him. I think this is where the rubber meets the road. He can win. He's got the striking to do it, but I think his path is a close decision more often than not. Whereas I think that Xavier Franklin has a chance to go out there and win this by all methods. So for me, that's what makes him a live underdog in this spot. Alberto Montes and Carlos Calderon is a fight where I think both guys have a chance to submit one another. So for that reason, I guess, it's a dog or pass situation for me. I do think that Montes, he can be made to look bad, right? He had an inexperienced opponent, a guy with less experience than him come out there, make him miss, make him look bad, and then knock him out silly, knocked him cold in that fight. So do I think somebody could come in there and kind of swing reckless and put him down? Yes. And also, I think that when you look at the grappling, I do favor him. He does have a slightly shorter neck, and he's got a little bit more high percentage finishes with the front headlock series. But I think that Carlos Calderon, for guard playing in MMA, is pretty damn competent from down there. So in terms of like guys you want to go out there and just power grapple, you might make a mistake with this guy one time and end up in a bad situation, triangle choke, an arm bar, and not be able to recover. So for me, that's why, it's a live underdog situation, but he's got the short notice. There's a couple things putting me off. So ends by sub. Pierce shouted it out before. It's not open anywhere. When it opens up, I think that's something that you want to at least consider in this matchup, because both guys, that's how they like to get it done. That's how they're going to look to do it. And both of them look to have Giraffe next to me. So let's see if somebody can latch on a choke here. And I also think both of them could get hurt on the feet. That's a club and sub opportunity. We saw it in the main event last week. What was it, 35-1 that the guy was to win by submission? And was he better at jiu-jitsu? Probably not. Does it matter when somebody's rocked? No, it does not. So it's just something to keep in the back of our minds. And then the last fight, guys, Diyar Nurgozhay. I am going to pick him to win, but I'm not going to pick him with an extreme amount of confidence. I do think that Bartosz has decent takedown defense as the fight goes on. I think he builds into a fight. I think he's a guy that has some idea of what he needs to do to win. I've seen him go out there against better grapplers, pace them, and then defeat them on the ground. So that's a vote of confidence there. But I've seen this other guy, Diyar, go for 5 rounds. I've never seen him lose. I've seen him out there exchanging on the feet. I've seen him say, hey, you know what? This guy's trying to land back on me. I'm going to take him down. I've seen him make a lot of the right decisions under pressure, I felt. And when I saw him make a mistake, end up in a bad position, he didn't panic. He didn't get overwhelmed, and he was able to recover every time. So for me, I just think that you see one guy in Bartosz who has probably fought a little bit more resistance, but you've seen those elements fall apart for him at times, the grappling, the takedown defense, the decision-making on the ground. And I think that on the other side for Diyar, I think if this is a striking matchup, it's going to be a lot closer. But I think his decision-making on the ground is superior. I think his ability to pass is probably superior. So I think that Diyar is probably going to have his way if he's able to wrestle and grapple. But we saw what Schoenfelder was going to have his way if he got to wrestle and grapple, right? In our projections and everybody's thought for how the fight was going to go. It's a fight. It starts on the feet. 2 guys swinging at each other. They're both nervous as shit. It's the biggest moment of their life, and they've got a lot of money on the other side of this outcome. So for them, it's a high pressure situation, and you could see a lot of things go wrong. So for me, that's why I don't like big chalk in any regard on the Contender series. But as this line narrows, it does seem to me like I understand why Diyar is a slight favorite here as the undefeated fighter, who I think, has an ability to mix up the wrestling and the grappling. Staph infection. Oh, I don't know if I want to touch it, right? That's burnt me before.